What's up, suppers? What's going on? It is Dives, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to the Suit Up Pod. Suit Up can be found on iTunes and Spotify. Hit that subscribe button, guys. If you guys are here watching us on YouTube, on tap for today, we are talking horror movies and talking the Sweet 16 of our horror bracket, which you can find at the Suit Up TPL Twitter handle on Twitter. Loretto, are you ready to suit up?
Let's suit up.
Suit up.
I am Iron Man.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
The Force will be with you, always.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun.
I do this all day.
What's but a smile on that face?
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always open.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
All right, guys, we are back. Today, we have our co-host. He is Loretto. Follow him on Twitter at Marcellus Durden. He is part of Movies Matrix. Check that out on Twitter at Movies Matrix and moviesmatrix.com. What's going on, Lo?
Good morning, sir. About to start a weekend shift, unfortunately, but got some time to chat with you about some horror movies, so I'm excited.
Love it, love it, love it. So we love horror movies. We've been running some tournaments over at Suit Up TPL on Twitter. And today we're just going to kind of talk about our Sweet 16 here of our top horror movies of all time. And starting off, you could tell by looking at our screen here, we have the Psycho Killer bracket, the Supernatural, Monster, and Weird brackets. We're going to just kind of run through them. Did the fans get it right? Did they get it wrong? What we would have done? And we'll kind of like project and predict like what we think is going to go down for the Elite Eight. Sound good, man?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm reacting. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm reacting because I didn't realize some of these won. I'm like, what?
All right, so let's start off with the Psycho Killer bracket, man. That is the top left bracket. Our number one seed, Halloween, made easy work of Saw. Did the fans get that one right?
100%. That's my favorite horror film of all time. And nothing against Saw, but I mean, Michael Myers is a legend. And to do what they did in 78, they just took the world by storm, man. Michael Myers is a badass.
Yeah, not surprised at all. Halloween is probably one of the most influential slasher movies of all time. And John Carpenter, man, the single biggest reason why a lot of these movies on this bracket exist, not surprised at all. And then moving down, we have one of our closest matchups in voting. It is The Shining, barely squeaking by Silence of the Lambs, man. What was your reaction to that?
I'm not surprised. Do you have the numbers on it? Like what the votes came down to?
I don't have it on me now, but I think it was in that 70-30 range. I was a little surprised at that. Wow. How about you?
Okay, well, I guess that makes sense. I feel like Silence, I think that was definitely from our generation, and maybe some of the younger audiences that just don't remember it that well, but for whatever reason, something like The Shining transcends decades, and that's just a testament to Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
So I think between the lasting power of those two films, I think that's really what it is. I mean, who hasn't seen that image of Jack Nicholson peeking his head through the door? And nothing against Anthony Hopkins, but I feel like that's just a movie maybe some people just haven't seen.
Yeah, I think the fans absolutely got this one right, man. This is a horror movie that sticks and still holds up really well today. The Shining is so effective because it's about its focus is on horror and fear rather than gore, mostly like the modern movies of today. But yeah, Jack Nicholson.
With the exception of the hallway.
Except for that scene.
I got nightmares, dude. Seriously, like I have nightmares of a blood river rushing towards me. It's terrifying.
Yeah, Jack is so good in this movie. Probably his best role ever. Just an awesome movie. And then we have a Sweet 16 matchup. It's an epic matchup of Halloween versus The Shining. How do you expect that one to go down, man?
Like I said, Halloween's my favorite film. They have a lot of followers. Michael Myers has a cult following on the internet, which is amazing. I think that's going to carry him to the finals, honestly. And just between the two films, The Shining is incredible. It gave me nightmares. It's scary. It's obviously lasted, how many decades? It came out in 74?
Yep.
So for Halloween 2, came out in 78. But I think for me, I love that Carpenter did less with more. I can't remember the numbers on the budget of Halloween, but he made it on a shoestring budget, and it became a phenomenon. I think that in itself is an accomplishment. I think Halloween will deservedly get by The Shining.
All right. Yeah. So this is definitely one of my favorite matchups of our Sweet 16 here. It's going to be a slugfest between the two OGs here, John Carpenter versus Stanley Kubrick. I could be totally wrong, man. I'm going The Shining. My gut tells me The
Really?
Shining. Yeah, man. The
Okay.
cinema. You're right, though. The low budget of aspect of Halloween just started it all with this genre. But man, the cinematography, the script, Jack Nicholson, so good. The overall lasting impact of The Shining. I think The Shining gets the W here. So we'll see. That'll be really interesting to watch this one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a battle for sure.
All right, let's move down to the bottom of the Psycho Killer bracket. We have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre barely getting by Jordan Peele's Us. What was your
Really?
reaction? Yeah, this was like a 55-45.
Oh man. Well, it deservedly won. I would have been upset if Us won. Nothing against Jordan Peele. We talked about this the first time we discussed this bracket. I didn't hate Us, but it definitely wasn't what I was expecting. It was a little bit of a disappointment for me.
Yeah.
But Chainsaw Massacre definitely won. It's one of my favorite horror films. It's in my top 5. Leatherface is a freak of nature, man.
Yeah.
Having his face of other people's skin, and it's just, it's like, oh man, that is horror at its finest. Just a creepy, iconic villain.
Totally agree. Fans got this one right, man. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a masterclass in making a movie's atmosphere feel downright terrifying. Like you said, I really enjoyed Us as well. Get Out was better. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. But yeah, I feel like Jordan Peele's Us kind of got the shaft in this one. You're not beating the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Sorry. It ain't happening. Next up, we have Scream, which made quick work of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. I got that one wrong on our last pod when we talked about the first round. I thought that was kind of an upset area, but Scream got the W. What was your reaction to that?
I'm honestly not surprised. As I was watching, because I think when he first posted the poll, I was actually watching some of the back and forth between some of these matchups, and Scream was running away with it. And I think a lot of it is, Hitchcock is a legendary filmmaker that cinephiles know and love, but I think his following, especially on the internet, is not as strong.
Yeah.
Nothing against Psycho. Psycho is one of my favorite films I've ever seen, not even just as a horror film. I love Psycho. It's very well written, and it broke ground for the horror genre and for slashers in general. But I said it on the last show, Scream is near and dear to my heart. I'm not surprised it won, and I'm actually kind of glad. I was rooting for it. So.
Yeah, I agree. Scream is such an important film on so many levels, man. Wes Craven actually borrowed a lot of elements from A Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. It single-handedly reinvigorated the horror genre during a time when, these movies were absolutely trash, garbage, dead, you name it. So Scream won. Shout out to Alfred Hitchcock, though, one of the original OGs. And then we move on to the Sweet 16. We have Texas Chainsaw Massacre going up against Scream. How are you handling with this one? Because those are two of your favorites.
Yeah, I'm torn, man. I'm torn. God, this hurts. I think I'm gonna go with my heart, though. Scream got me into horror. I was terrified to watch these movies when I was younger. Like, I couldn't finish Chainsaw Massacre. I was like shivering as a child trying to watch it. I could never finish Nightmare on Elm Street, but Scream, I got through it. And because of Scream, it kind of built my courage when I was younger to like, oh, hey, maybe I can watch scary movies. Maybe I can handle this. It kind of opened the doors for me. So personally, I'm rooting for Scream, but that's going to be a hell of a fight.
Yeah, it's a slugfest. My heart says the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but my gut says Scream advances in this matchup. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just like Halloween, man, just a landmark movie in terms of low budget horror, but similar to Halloween, I'm thinking most will vote for Scream, just like Psycho, that it's more recent and it's just more influential. People seeing it are going to vote for Scream more.
The fan base is avid too on Twitter. There's a strong Scream fan base.
Both films, man, they definitely spawned just so many more films just like it, but none of them have ever been able to imitate the original here. Man, I'm gonna go with Scream. I'm gonna go with my boy Wes Craven in the Sweet 16. All right, so let's move down to the supernatural bracket. All right, man. So we have our first major upset here. It's Insidious taking down Hereditary. Insidious had 55% of the votes here. Did the fans get that one right?
No. No offense, you guys. Anybody watching that participated in this? What are you guys doing, man? Nothing against Insidious. I love James Wan. He has 3 or 4 movies on this whole tournament, but Hereditary is a landmark. Like the same way we're talking about Chainsaw Massacre and Psycho from the 60s and 70s. We will be talking about Hereditary 40, 50 years from now, man. This was a landmark horror film. Ari Aster burst onto the scene and scared the crap out of us. I'm sure you had a fun time in the theater. I actually watched it by myself, which might have been worse. I was freaking out. I was like shaking at my work desk while I'm watching this movie, and it got under my skin. I couldn't stop thinking about it for a few days. It's one of those movies that sticks with you. It's haunting, terrifying, in all the great ways. It really made you think. And I think they got it wrong, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not the best day for Ari Aster, man. He saw both of his movies go down in this round. We'll get to the next one in a little bit. All right, but yeah, I am a huge James Wan fan. Insidious is one of my favorite films, but the fans really butchered this one, man. I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry, but Hereditary is far, far better. It's a far better piece of cinema. In some ways, like Hereditary and Insidious are pretty similar. They're like both slow burns. They both have excellent scripts, and they have really, really good payoffs. But man, nothing messes with the emotions like Hereditary. It goes from like terror to hopelessness to sorrow all over the place, man. It's just on a whole other level than Insidious. Hereditary should have won this hands down, man.
Hey, real quick, bud, how was that in the theater when Toni Collette was in the corner?
Nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Were people like, oh shit?
Yeah, that last act of Hereditary just goes from 0 to 100, and you're just like, it kind of surprises you in a bit because there's so much dread, there's so much sorrow. It's like very depressing, and then all of a sudden it just goes boom, and you're
full octane, man. It just cranks it up, and it's like, oh, what is going on?
Yeah, totally. I loved it. I love Hereditary. We watched that in the theater. Everyone was just silent and stayed in their seats when the credits hit. I love that. Whenever that happens, man, that's the signs of a really effective film. Is that it's just mind blown. All right, let's move down. We have oh wait, where are we at? I lost our place. We have The Sixth Sense taking out Poltergeist. What was your reaction to that one?
I was rooting for Sixth Sense, but I'm a little surprised. Especially going back to like Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween and Shining, the OGs were taking it, and then unfortunately Poltergeist was one of the first OGs to get knocked out, and I was rooting for Sixth Sense. I think it's the better film, but Poltergeist is, if it would have won, I wouldn't have been upset. I love that movie just as much. It was a coin flip for me.
Yeah, the Philly boy advances. I'm not surprised with this one. The Sixth Sense was a monster hit with one of the best film twists of all time. I got to ask you, man, do you think a movie in today's era of social media, do you think a movie with a twist at the end, do you think that could succeed in today's like modern film?
I want to say yes, but at the same time, horror is not MCU, and the horror directors are not going to write a letter to the fans to keep your mouth shut. I want to say yes, but at the same time, I've had stuff spoiled on me on Twitter. It happens all the time. It's probably one of my like greatest pet peeves. I hate spoilers, but for whatever reason, people want to get on the damn internet and say, "Oh my God, did you see this?" It's like, no, I didn't see it, you jerk. Can you just keep it to yourself?
Yeah, I totally agree, man.
I don't even get where that comes from. Like, what pleasure do you get by posting something that people haven't seen and just telling everybody like?
Yeah, I'm probably like you. When a big movie comes out or something is coming out close, I go dark, full dark, no trailers, nothing. I don't want to know anything. I like to kind of make my own opinion on the film before deep diving into Rotten Tomatoes and all that crap. Because it ruins it.
I avoid reviews too.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, I'm not surprised The Sixth Sense won this one. You know, this was such a game changer at the time. It was not. There's no gore or there's no like that many jump scares in this. It's all about some deeper questions like death and letting go and love and the relationship between a parent and a child. Like this was a completely different kind of horror movie for its time. And
not to linger on it too much, but it's a great cinema class film.
Yeah.
Like this is the kind of film you show to your film students and break it down, because Shyamalan, you don't notice it the first time, but he leaves you a lot of breadcrumbs. He leaves you a lot of clues, and he uses color as certain themes. Like the color red is very prominent in the film. There's a bunch of videos and articles on that, and it's a masterclass in storytelling.
Yeah, it defined the 90s. And I'll say, yeah, like you said, repeatability, like rewatchability. This movie had it. And at the time when, slasher movies and stuff, like they were one and done. You saw it. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like you never want to see it again. This was totally different. Like this required 2 to 3 viewings, but let's move on.
I actually like that one.
It's fun.
Moving on.
Absolutely. All right. And then we have Insidious versus The Sixth Sense in the Sweet 16. What do you expect in this matchup?
Well, I was pulling for Hereditary. I thought they would at least make it to the Elite Eight. But since it's not, I'm rooting for Sixth Sense, but my gut tells me Insidious might run away with this. I didn't think Insidious would get past Hereditary, but now that it's in the running, it's very apparent. Insidious has a fan base.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the Conjuring universe, the whole James Wan legions, loyal followers. Maybe they're backing it, but I think Insidious might take this one. I'm rooting for Sixth Sense, though.
I would love to see Insidious win, but my gut tells me it's going to be The Sixth Sense. I just, of all the reasons I mentioned, The Sixth Sense is probably a tier above Insidious, as much as I love it. Yeah, that'd be really cool. So this is kind of like the James Wan bracket here. I didn't even realize until now. All right, but let's move on because we're going to get to the next one soon. All right,
this whole bracket is just like, what?
In the bottom of the supernatural bracket, we saw A Nightmare on Elm Street barely squeak by 2017's It. Did the fans get that one right?
Yes! Insert the Thor gif. Yes! Thank you, fans. You had me worried. I know It has a following, and I'm so glad the fans got this right. Freddy's one of my favorite characters of all time. I love A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's actually my second favorite horror film, right behind Halloween. I mean, you could actually flip-flop those. They're on equal terms with me. It shouldn't even have been in this round. I thought the others should have won the first round.
Yep.
So I think rightfully so, it made an exit. And I'm rooting for Freddy, man. That's my guy. So I'm hoping to see Freddy and Halloween in the Final Four. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely agree with that. Nailed it. Agreed with you also on It. The Others was a better film. But here we are. The Nightmare on Elm Street won. All is good. It lives to see another day. And then we have The Conjuring. And then surprisingly somewhat, The Conjuring taking down one of the best of all time in The Exorcist. And this was close. It only won with 54% of the votes. What was your reaction to that one?
Exactly the same as Hereditary. What is happening? James Wan has a cult on the internet, and I don't understand it. Like, no offense. Conjuring should not have beaten The Exorcist, and Insidious should not have beaten Hereditary. I don't understand why we're talking about it, but here we are.
This is where I disagree. I fully agree with the latter, not the first part. The Conjuring, man, I'm really, really glad this one took the W here, because this is hands down my favorite upset. And there's a couple more here, but the fans absolutely got this one right. I don't care. The atmosphere, the character development, the story is just makes it a better film than The Exorcist. There's no sex, there's no swearing. It's just strictly a great story. I love it. I love The Conjuring. I'm straight up biased. It's one of my favorite movie experiences of all time.
Nothing against The Conjuring. I love it as well, but personally, I just think, how did The Exorcist lose this? I mean, for what they did in 73, people fainting in the theaters, spitting out the pea soup, the body levitating in the air. I mean, this all predates everything on this bracket. I mean, seeing a demon in real life, what's his name? The with the eyes, Ponzu or something like that.
I forgot.
Terrifying, and to know the priests like at some point in that film had no real power at some point in the film. It's like, what do you do? I don't know. The Exorcist I thought was a better film in my opinion, but you know.
Cool. All right, then we have a Sweet 16 matchup of Nightmare on Elm Street versus The Conjuring. Go ahead, man.
Oh, Freddy all the way. 1, 2. He's coming for you. He's going to the final four. I hope. Personally, I don't see why it should be a challenge, but it seems like there is a cult, James Wan cult. So we'll see if Freddy can get by that cult.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Come on, Conjuring, baby. I'm rooting for it, man. The Conjuring has it all, man. The script, the atmosphere, the comedy, the climax. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The second half of The Conjuring is absolutely legendary. I don't know. I think you're right, but my heart says Conjuring. We'll see what happens. All right, let's move on to the next bracket here. We have the monster bracket. We have Jaws making shark bait out of the Thing. What was your reaction to that?
Not surprised at all.
Nah, man. Go ahead.
Similar to Halloween, I have a feeling Jaws might run away with this thing. It could come down to Halloween versus Jaws. I don't know. But that was my initial prediction, man. So I think Jaws is running away with it. They got it right. So
absolutely. Yeah, Jaws, without question, Jaws wins this one. But I just quick nod. Personally, I'm still not over The Thing beating my movie, one of my favorite movies, Tremors. Not okay, man. It's not okay. All right, but I don't think we need to deep dive into Jaws. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, in the coming weeks here. It's just an all-timer. And then we have 28 Days Later taking down George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Another OG goes down. Do the fans get that one right?
No, it broke my heart. I hated to see it. There wouldn't be 28 Days Later without Night of the Living Dead. Come on, people.
Yeah.
I mean, and nothing against 28 Days Later. It's a great film. Danny Boyle is an excellent director. He brought something fresh to the zombie genre, but there would be no zombie genre without George A. Romero, people. And, you know, maybe it's not as scary as some of these films on this list, but it's still a great story, and it laid the foundation. Seeing these guys hole up in a house, and I think it's watchable. It's rewatchable just as much as it was back then in '68. But you know, the fans like running zombies, I guess.
You nailed it, man. I couldn't agree more. I love 28 Days Later. You know, we're talking to the best of the best here. But man, these OGs are going down. Jesus. All right. Next up in the Sweet 16, we have Jaws going up against 28 Days Later. Who do you think is going to win that matchup?
Jaws.
Yep. Next.
No question.
And then next up, we have, Alien taking down The Fly. Not surprising at all. What did you think about the voting for that?
What was the voting?
I think this was like an 80-20 around there.
Oh, yeah, perfect. It should have been 100%.
Yeah. So no disrespect to the man Jeff Goldblum, but
we have like 2 Cronenberg fans. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go into that one. Nope. And similarly, we have A Quiet Place doing quick work of The Mist. How about the fans voting on that one?
Mist is a good effective horror film, but I think Quiet Place is a better film overall. Fans got it right. Well done. This monster bracket is got some heavy hitters, man. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. I love The Mist, but A Quiet Place is just on a different tier and grabs you from the beginning. That scene of Emily Blunt, you know, going through pregnancy and not being able to make noise. Like, I just had shared that experience with my wife. I can't even imagine, not being able to make noise while delivering a baby. It's such an effective scene. A Quiet Place is awesome. I'm still upset that it got delayed. It sucks. The sequel. So let's move on to Alien versus A Quiet Place in the Sweet 16. Tough one. What do you think?
So, film nerds, don't kill me. I'm gonna duck real quick. I'm rooting for A Quiet Place. I just think in this day and age, it dropped, what was it, 2017?
Yeah.
In this day and age, to do something that creative and that different and to execute it the way that they did. John Krasinski nailed it. His first time directing a feature. And I love Ridley Scott. I love Alien. I love Sigourney Weaver. I love that whole franchise. But man, Quiet Place, it's a hell of a story. I was engrossed in it. It really took me away. And I think it has more rewatchability for me. It's more fun. Nothing against Alien. It's a good movie, but I don't find myself rewatching Alien over and over. It's an effective film, but personally, I think Quiet Place is more memorable for me, and I'm pulling for a Quiet Place here.
Nice. I love A Quiet Place. It was my favorite movie of 2017 when it came out. But I'm going with going with Alien here. I love how Alien is like this story about ordinary people facing like true fear. And I love how they make, the monster is not exactly the alien. The monster is the atmosphere, and it just sucks you in. And I just love Alien. I'm going with the Alien here. That's my gut. And let's move on to the weird bracket. We have one of the biggest upsets here. We have Rosemary's Baby getting blown out by The Cabin in the Woods. The Cabin in the Woods won this with 93% of the people voting for it. How about that?
I'm actually not surprised. I've seen it. Cabin in the Woods has a rabid fan base. Good job. I agree. No, Cabin in the Woods is one of my favorite horror films. It's probably in my top 10. You nailed it on the last show. It's everything a horror fan wants. But it's fun too. It's got a little bit of humor. It's got the meta, satirical take on what horror is, but then it flips it on its head with a great twist, and then all those horror icons that they could pack in there. It's such a fun experience for people that enjoy horror.
And that's kind of how I define this weird bracket. It's not these aren't jump out scare movies. These are funny movies. These are movies that really did a good job of blending comedy and horror. And that leads off with Cabin in the Woods, man. I'm not shocked. This is one of my favorite horror movies. The Cabin in the Woods is such a fun movie. It feels like it's a labor of love from horror writers to horror fans. And it's just that last act of The Cabin in the Woods was just one of the most fun experiences in the movie theater. Love this voting for Cabin in the Woods. All right, guys. Then we move on to Evil Dead 2 making quick work with Let the Right One In. What was your reaction to that one, man?
Just kidding. Honestly, if we're looking at it from a cinematic perspective, I would say Let the Right One In is probably the better film. But in terms of fun, in terms of balls to the wall craziness, Evil Dead 2 is so much more memorable in that sense. And I think rightly so. It won, and I'm glad. I'm a big Sam Raimi fan. I love the character of Ash Williams. Mm-hmm. There's nothing better than seeing a guy with a chainsaw for a hand and a friggin' shotgun in the other, man. That's just so friggin' cool, man. Good job, fans. I think Evil Dead 2 rightfully won there.
Yeah, no surprise here. Similar to my love for Cabin in the Woods, Evil Dead 2 is that perfect balance between comedy and horror. And what separates Evil Dead 2 is its ability to be downright scary at times, but also bring that amazing humor, which is not easy to do, man. Usually when you have laugh out loud moments, it kind of takes you out of it being a horror film, and not here, man. Evil Dead 2, and then we go into the Sweet 16. We have Evil Dead 2 versus The Cabin in the Woods. How do you predict that matchup to go down?
What's funny is this: you couldn't pair the weird bracket any better. Yeah. I mean, Evil Dead 2 was pretty much like what Cabin in the Woods accomplished. Evil Dead 2 did that in the 80s. I mean, it was weird. It was funny. Ash literally fights his hand and cuts it off. It's just insane. He goes into another portal.
Yeah.
He travels to another dimension. And I think, it hurts. I love both of these films so much, but I got to go with the OG. Ash Williams, hail to the king, baby.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, what a freaking matchup, man. The two funniest horror movies here go head to head. My gut says Evil Dead 2 advances here, man. But I'm going to go with the wild card of the bracket, and that is Cabin in the Woods. Shout out to, what were their names? Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford. just hilarious in their roles in Cabin in the Woods. Hilarious. Yeah, I totally expect Evil Dead 2 to win this. It's Sam Raimi's bracket to lose. But
Hey, Drew Goddard needs to do more work, man. That guy's awesome.
yeah, man. All right, let's move on to the bottom quarter of the bracket, which featured a couple of upsets here. We have the Blair Witch Project getting upset by Jordan Peele's Get Out. What was your reaction to that one?
I think the last show you were pulling for Blair Witch, right? I think the fans got it right. I think Get Out's the better film. I think that's one of the best films of this decade. So happy for Jordan Peele. What an accomplishment. And, you know, the first time I saw Get Out, man, it's unsettling. It's one of those films, a lot like Hereditary. It kind of gets under your skin. And then when you really dig into it, it takes you, man. It just, you get lost in the story. And by that third act, man, I'm on the edge of my seat, but I'm also rooting for Daniel Kaluuya. I'm like, come on, man, you know, and you're just pulling for him, and you know, you don't know where it's gonna go, but it's what a ride.
Yeah, I love both of these movies. Jordan Peele, this is his debut, right? Like, I can't think of a better directorial debut than this film. It has to be like the best in years for a director to come out with Get Out. It was so critically acclaimed. But Blair Witch Project, man, that started a whole freaking trend. And I don't know if Get Out has established that tier of just being such an influential movie. And like I said last pod, Blair Witch still owns one of my favorite movie experiences of all time because I saw it in the theater with my friend, and we all saw it opening night when everyone thought it was real. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff, especially that ending. Really, really fun. And then we have the last one. It is Drag Me to Hell versus Midsommar. I thought Midsommar would just clear the deck with this one, but Drag Me to Hell got the W. What was your reaction to that?
You know, very similar to Let the Right One In versus Evil Dead 2. This was like cinema versus horror.
Yeah.
like you know, the artsy type of thriller horror versus just batshit crazy horror. And interestingly enough, Drag Me to Hell won. I was rooting for it. I'm a big Sam Raimi fan, so I was backing that, but I'm surprised. Ari Aster has a big following. I'm surprised Midsommar got knocked out. I would say it's the better crafted film. The cinematography is incredible. And again, it wasn't as scary as Hereditary, but he just has that knack for that, giving you that sense of dread, that really uneasy feeling where, you know, not much is going on screen, but you don't feel comfortable. Yeah. You feel like something's wrong. Yep. And that's just masterful direction. I think the fans might have dropped the ball here. I didn't think Midsommar was better than Hereditary, but I would say it's a better film than Drag Me to Hell.
I completely agree. Echo my statements completely. And then we have in the Sweet 16, we have Get Out versus Drag Me to Hell. How do you see that one going?
Oh, that's a cakewalk. Get Out, hands down.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam Raimi, but that one just doesn't match up.
Yep. All right. Quick question: what film is your sleeper pick of the Sweet 16? Do you have a movie here that you think might surprise?
Well, it's kind of my dark horse / underdog here. I'm pulling for A Quiet Place. I know you're rooting for Alien, but I think Quiet Place could surprise us. There's a big following there, and it's a lot more recent. Might upset Alien.
And then if you could look quickly, which movie had the most difficult route to the Final Four? I'll lead us off. I think The Shining. I think The Shining had a really tough road so far because it had Silence of the Lambs. Now it's going up against Halloween, and if it wins that one, you go up against Chainsaw Massacre versus Scream. And I think those movies are big time heavy hitters. I think that's tough. What about you? Any guesses?
Let me take a quick gander here. I still can't get over the fact that Insidious made it this far.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Sixth Sense. I'm trying to think of anybody from the first round that had it really tough but are just nailing it. I think you nailed it. Most of these other films had a pretty easy go at it. I would give a shout out to Cabin in the Woods though.
Okay. Very cool.
I didn't think they'd get that far. I'm surprised how far their following has taken them.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think The Shining probably has the roughest road. Maybe Scream right behind it, because Scream's going up against. We went up against Psycho, they squeaked it out, and then now they're going up against Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
That one's a tough road too.
Yeah,
that Psycho Killer bracket's stacked.
Absolutely, it really is. I like the way these brackets. You made these brackets, and it kind of worked out. It's kind of fun. All right, guys, we want to hear from you. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, please comment below. Let us know what movies you think are shoe-ins for the Final Four for the championship round. Which movies got the shaft? Which movies are underrated on this list? What are your favorites? We want to know. And you can follow all of our voting polls at Suit Up on Twitter at SuitUpTPL. Any final thoughts, Loretto?
This has been a wild bracket to witness. It's fun. I'm rooting for Halloween and Jaws for the finals, but we'll see what happens, man. It's going to be crazy.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, so make sure you follow Loretto on Twitter at Marcellus Durden. Check out Movies Matrix on Twitter at Movies Matrix and moviesmatrix.com. For Loretto, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
I am Iron Man.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
The Force will be with you. Always.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun.
I do this all day. What's but a smile on that face?
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Some men just want to watch the world